The only fraud that was committed was me thinking that I knew what it was like, that I really understood what it was like to be married, and I really didn't.
It was a love story that felt like a dream until it turned into a complete nightmare. Country music superstar Kenny Chesney and Hollywood actress Renee Zellweger stunned the world when they tied the knot in a secret Caribbean wedding, but just 4 months later, the fairy tale was over. Instead of a quiet breakup, Renee filed for an annulment, erasing their marriage as if it had never existed. The reason? A single cryptic word: fraud. That word ignited a media firestorm. What did she mean? Was there a scandalous betrayal? Did one of them lie about something huge? Fans were left scrambling for answers, and the rumors got out of control fast. But what happened? Was their love even real? And what went so wrong that it ended faster than anyone expected? To understand why their love fell apart, we must go back to the beginning. Some love stories begin with an instant spark. And for Kenny Chesney and Renee Zellweger, that moment happened in January 2005 at NBC's Concert of Hope, a charity event raising funds for tsunami relief. Among the many stars in attendance, Renee's eyes were locked on one person, Kenny Chesney.
Well, I mean, we thought was the least harmful was fraud, because it kind of broad, whatever it is, it doesn't specify. Oh boy, we were wrong. Maybe I should have come out and said, no, I'm not. But I didn't want to draw any more attention to it, because I knew I wasn't. I didn't have to prove to anybody that I wasn't, I didn't feel like that I really did. It was not true, period.
What most people didn't know at the time was that Kenny had been secretly crushing on Renee for years. In past interviews, he had even listed her as one of his dream women, alongside Charlize Theron and Janet Jackson. He admired her for being a down-to-earth country girl at heart, despite her Hollywood fame. Meanwhile, Renee had her silent admiration for Kenny, enjoying his music and charm from afar. She wanted to make a move but didn't know how, so she planned to pass him a note, a small, playful gesture to break the ice. But before she could do it, her publicist intervened and told Kenny directly. Kenny, never one to miss an opportunity, walked over to Renee and delivered a clever pickup line. "I hear you are trying to pass me a note, don't let the principal find out." Renee was caught off guard but couldn't stop laughing. The tension melted instantly, and that one line set the tone for their connection: playful, unexpected, and natural. Despite coming from two different worlds, one dominating Hollywood and the other ruling the country music stage, they found common ground in their love for simple things. Kenny loved that Renee wasn't your typical A-list diva. She was humble, funny, and effortlessly charming. She, on the other hand, was drawn to his southern charm and easygoing attitude. They kept things low-key at first, sneaking in moments away from the cameras. No one even knew they were seeing each other, but something about their connection felt undeniable. But their romance was more than just a celebrity crush. It quickly turned into something much bigger. For months, Kenny Chesney and Renee Zellweger managed to keep their romance completely under wraps. In a world where every celebrity's move is tracked, their ability to hide their growing love was impressive. They communicated through phone calls, met in discreet locations, and avoided any public outings that could tip off the media. It was thrilling, like living a secret life only they knew about. But in April 2005, that secrecy came to an abrupt end. The world got its first clue that something was happening between them when Renee made a bold move on stage at one of Kenny's concerts. She walked out in front of thousands of fans, carrying a margarita, and handed it to him with a smile. The real shocker? She kissed him on the cheek, a small gesture, but enough to send the media into a frenzy. The crowd erupted in cheers, but behind the scenes, the industry buzzed with speculation. Were they just friends? A new couple? The questions exploded overnight, and the press went into overdrive trying to piece the puzzle together. Just a few days later, the truth was out. They were officially a couple. But why did they keep it a secret for so long? According to those close to them, Kenny and Renee wanted to be sure about their feelings before the world got involved. They had both seen what fame did to relationships. Once the cameras started rolling, the pressure intensified. They wanted to enjoy their time together without the weight of public scrutiny. Yet, despite their efforts to stay grounded, their love story took an unexpected turn. They decided to get married just weeks after going public. It was a decision that shocked even their closest friends. Some wondered, why the rush? Maybe it was the excitement of finally finding someone who understood them. Maybe it was the thrill of doing something completely spontaneous. Or maybe, deep down, they both feared that if they didn't act now, the moment might slip away. The wedding was beautiful, but did they truly know each other? On May 9, 2005, under the warm Caribbean sun, Kenny Chesney and Renee Zellweger stood together on the sandy shores of St. John, exchanging vows in a breathtakingly intimate ceremony. Unlike the extravagant celebrity weddings that often dominate headlines, theirs was quiet, personal, and deeply romantic. With just 35 close friends and family in attendance, it felt more like a dream than reality. Renee was a vision in a custom Carolina Herrera gown, a delicate creation that perfectly captured her effortless elegance. As she walked down the aisle, the ocean breeze playing with her veil, she radiated happiness. Kenny, dressed in a simple yet classic suit and his signature cowboy hat, watched her with pure admiration. To the guests, it seemed like a scene straight out of a love story. Two souls who had found their perfect match. Their vows were heartfelt and deeply personal, filled with promises of forever and unwavering devotion. Those present couldn't help but be swept up in the magic of the moment. The laughter, the tears, the stolen glances, all pointed to a couple madly in love, eager to start a new chapter together. Their honeymoon period was just as dreamy. They soaked in the Caribbean sun, enjoying long walks on the beach, private candlelit dinners, and whispered confessions about their future. Kenny called Renee his greatest adventure, while Renee spoke about finally finding someone who felt like home. They had the world at their feet, and for a brief moment, it seemed like nothing could break them apart. Renee? But was it true love or just a fantasy? Were they caught up in the rush of something new, blinded by passion rather than reality? But behind the perfect wedding photos, trouble was brewing. For the world, Kenny Chesney and Renee Zellweger had just stepped into a perfect love story. The wedding was magical, the honeymoon was filled with bliss, and they had everything most people could only dream of. But behind closed doors, things were unraveling faster than anyone expected. The first sign of trouble? Kenny's relentless tour schedule. He was, after all, one of the biggest country stars in the world. His career wasn't just a passion, it was his entire life. His calendar was packed with stadium tours, recording sessions, and non-stop commitments. The reality of marriage clashed hard with his existing routine, and suddenly the life Renee had envisioned wasn't matching up with the one she was living. She had just walked away from years of intense work in Hollywood, hoping for a fresh start in a more grounded, peaceful life. But Kenny was on a completely different wavelength. He wasn't ready to slow down, and he certainly wasn't ready to change. People close to them began noticing the tension growing quickly. Renee had always valued deep emotional connections. She wanted a husband who would be present, engage in everyday moments, and truly build a life together. But Kenny, by his admission, was tunnel-visioned when it came to his music. He poured every ounce of energy into his career, and that left very little room for marriage. This wasn't about a lack of love, they adored each other, but love alone wasn't enough to bridge the gap between their different worlds. Kenny later admitted in interviews that he had panicked. The idea of marriage, the responsibilities and the changes it required felt suffocating. He had spent his entire life crafting his identity as a free-spirited country star, and suddenly he was expected to be a husband, a role he wasn't prepared for. It became clear that they had rushed into something without truly understanding what it meant. Was it passion mistaken for love? Were they simply caught up in the excitement of something new? Whatever the case, the cracks were widening fast. And then, just 4 months after their wedding, Renee took legal action that stunned the world. When Renee Zellweger filed for an annulment after just 4 months of marriage, the media was already in a frenzy. But when the reason listed in the legal documents was fraud, speculation exploded into something far bigger than anyone had anticipated. The public began to pick apart every possible meaning behind the word, trying to uncover the hidden truth behind their sudden split. And one theory rose above the rest, a theory that would follow Kenny Chesney for years to come. Almost instantly, rumors spread that Kenny Chesney might be gay. In the eyes of the public, fraud suggested that something about the marriage had been dishonest or misrepresented. Since there were no reports of infidelity, no financial scandal, and no major falling out, people jumped to the conclusion that Kenny had been hiding his true sexuality from Renee, leading to the annulment. The tabloids pounced. Headlines screamed questions about Kenny's personal life, and radio hosts, bloggers, and television pundits ran with the speculation. It didn't help that Kenny remained completely silent in the face of these accusations. Instead of addressing the rumors head-on, he chose to say nothing, a decision that only made things worse. For weeks, Kenny refused to respond, hoping that the media storm would eventually pass. He had built his career as a private, small-town country star, not someone who entertained gossip or got caught up in tabloid drama. But, in this case, his silence backfired. The more he ignored the speculation, the more people believed there was truth behind it. Some pointed out that he had never been publicly linked to a long-term girlfriend before Renee, while others analyzed his song lyrics and public appearances, looking for hidden clues that he might have been covering up his real identity. The country music industry, known for its traditionally conservative fan base, watched closely. If the rumors were true, it could have major career consequences for Kenny. The pressure kept building and building until finally, he decided to speak out. When Kenny finally broke his silence, he didn't hold back. In a revealing Playboy interview, he addressed the rumors head-on, making it clear that he was not gay. He went even further, making a shocking claim about his personal life. He stated that he had been with over 100 women, as if to completely erase any lingering doubt about his sexuality. His words sent shockwaves through the media. Instead of shutting down the controversy, his statement only sparked more discussion. Some felt his response was too extreme, as if he was overcompensating, while others saw it as a desperate attempt to put an end to the whispers once and for all. But Kenny wasn't the only one fighting to clear the air. Renee, despite being at the center of the scandal, never intended for the word fraud to cause such damage. She later released a statement trying to clarify the situation. She explained that crud was simply a legal term that had nothing to do with Kenny's character. It wasn't meant to imply deception, dishonesty, or anything sinister. It was just the quickest legal route to end the marriage. But her words did little to stop the speculation. Even after the controversy died down, the rumor never completely disappeared. It became one of the defining moments of Kenny Chesney's career, something that would linger in the background for years. But once the dust settled, where did they go from there? The scandal surrounding their annulment may have faded from the headlines, but its impact on Kenny Chesney and Renee Zellweger lingered far longer than the media frenzy itself. For both of them, the abrupt end of their marriage wasn't just a personal heartbreak, it became a defining moment in their public lives. The whispers, the speculation, and the constant questions about what happened followed them for years. Kenny, who had always been private about his personal life, became even more guarded. The media storm that erupted over the annulment and the rumors about his sexuality made him realize just how little control he had over his narrative. He withdrew from the spotlight when it came to relationships and refused to engage in any public discussions about his love life. Since then, he has remained in a long-term relationship with Mary Nolan, a woman who has managed to stay almost entirely out of the public eye. Their relationship has been one of the most closely guarded secrets in country music. They are rarely seen together, and Kenny has never spoken openly about their romance. Unlike his whirlwind marriage with Renee, this time he is keeping things as far from the public as possible. Renee, on the other hand, continued to navigate Hollywood and relationships with a different approach. After the annulment, she largely stayed silent about her brief marriage to Kenny, choosing not to dwell on the past. She later found love with musician Doyle Bramhall II, whom she dated for several years before moving on to her current relationship with British TV star Ant Anstead. Their romance has been far more public than her time with Kenny, and she appears to have fully embraced her new chapter. But have they truly moved on from the public humiliation that followed their split? For Kenny, the fallout of the annulment forced him to set firm boundaries around his private life. He has often spoken about the challenges of fame and the intense scrutiny that comes with it, suggesting that his brief marriage to Renee played a role in his decision to step back from discussing personal matters altogether. He still insists that he has no regrets, even though he wishes the annulment process had been handled differently. For Renee, the lessons seem to be about choosing her battles wisely. She never allowed the scandal to define her, nor did she let it derail her career or personal happiness. She has maintained her reputation as one of Hollywood's most respected actresses, proving that sometimes silence is the best response. Even though their marriage ended quickly, it left an unforgettable mark. Years have passed since Kenny Chesney and Renee Zellweger's marriage ended, yet their story remains one of the most intriguing Hollywood mysteries. Fans still look back wondering what really went wrong and whether their love was ever meant to last. In a world where celebrity breakups are common, their short-lived union stands out, not just because of how fast it ended, but because of the unanswered questions it left behind. Perhaps their story resonates because it highlights a universal struggle, the battle between love and ambition. When two people come from different worlds, different careers, and different expectations, can they truly make it work? Their marriage was a reminder that fame magnifies everything: the romance, the pressure, and ultimately the cracks. Kenny and Renee may have cared deeply for each other, but love alone wasn't enough to bridge the gap between their realities. Some believe their connection was genuine but rushed, a relationship built on excitement rather than a solid foundation. Others think it was simply a case of bad timing, where two people who may have worked under different circumstances found themselves in a whirlwind that neither was truly prepared for. Kenny wasn't ready for marriage, and Renee may have expected something he simply couldn't give. But what can be learned from their brief yet dramatic love story? Their experience serves as a cautionary tale about understanding what commitment truly means before diving in. Passion can be intoxicating, but real love requires more than just attraction. It needs patience, compromise, and an ability to grow together. Kenny and Renee had all the emotions, all the excitement, but none of the time needed to build something lasting. Despite how it ended, neither of them has spoken bitterly about their time together. If anything, they have both looked back on it as a meaningful, if short-lived, chapter in their lives. In a way, that's what makes their story so unforgettable. It wasn't about hatred or betrayal. It was about two people who took a chance on love, but realized too late that they were on different paths. The story of Kenny Chesney and Renee Zellweger remains one of Hollywood's greatest mysteries.